The morning sun glistened off the polished marble of the tomb of the unknown soldier, casting sharp golden reflections across the plaza. Tourists milled about, cameras in hand, capturing the solemn beauty of the sight. The tomb guard stood perfectly at attention, rifle polished to a shine, movements precise and deliberate, each step of the ceremonial march measured with military perfection. Visitors whispered in awe, some craning their necks to see the guard's flawless posture. Children stared, fascinated by the uniform, while parents quietly explained the importance of the sacred space. The atmosphere was one of calm reverence, until the unexpected happened. From the side, a SWAT officer appeared, dressed in tactical gear with a stern expression. His approach was abrupt, calculated, and slightly intimidating. The tourists instinctively stepped back, sensing tension, while the tomb guard remained unmoved. He had been trained for situations just like this, a professional poised to maintain order no matter the circumstance. The SWAT officer's eyes scanned the plaza, briefly locking onto the tomb guard. For a moment, everything seemed frozen in time, the crowd holding its breath, the sound of distant traffic barely audible, and the ceremonial silence of the tomb guard dominating the scene. The officer reached into his gear, the tourist noticing, murmuring in confusion. Cameras started to tilt, recording every movement. Suddenly, without warning, the officer activated his taser. A sharp crack split the air. Electricity arced, and the tomb guard flinched for the briefest instant, yet remained upright, his training holding him steady. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Phones clicked frantically as tourists tried to capture the shocking moment. Some people whispered in disbelief. Others leaned forward to see if the guard would fall, but he did not. The plaza erupted with a mixture of tension and awe. "Did he just—" someone whispered. Another muttered, "Why would a SWAT officer do that here?" The tomb guard's eyes remained forward, calm and composed, every inch the epitome of discipline. Even under the sudden shock, and then a low murmur spread through the crowd. "Something tells me this is only the beginning." The suspense was palpable. Everyone watching knew this was no ordinary incident. Something far bigger, far more dramatic was about to unfold, and within moments, the arrival of a 4-star general would turn the plaza into a stage for authority, professionalism, and a lesson that nobody present would ever forget. The plaza was still buzzing with whispers as the stunned tourists struggled to process what had just occurred. A tomb guard, trained to maintain absolute composure, had just been struck with a taser by a SWAT officer, a shocking, unprecedented breach of protocol. Phones were already raised, recording the moment from multiple angles, each click and tap documenting what could soon become an infamous viral video. Visitors from around the world exchanged glances, some trembling in disbelief. "I'm watching from Manila, Philippines," a young man muttered to his friend. "Can you believe this?" Across the plaza, a couple from New York whispered, "This is unreal. Is he even okay?" From London to Sydney, those following the live stream shared their horror. Witnessing a ceremonial guard, the embodiment of discipline, stunned yet standing upright. The SWAT officer, tactical gear gleaming in the sunlight, moved with measured steps toward the guard. His face was expressionless, yet there was a tension in his posture, a mixture of authority and unpredictability. Tourists instinctively stepped back, giving him room, but the gaze of the tomb guard never wavered. He remained composed, every muscle trained for situations like this, demonstrating discipline under duress that seemed almost superhuman. Some onlookers began murmuring questions, their voices low but anxious. Why would a SWAT officer do this here? Is he testing him? Phones clicked furiously as others tried to zoom in, capturing the arc of electricity that had momentarily rippled across the guard's uniform. Every movement, every reaction was now preserved in the collective memory of the plaza, a record of chaos and calm, colliding in the open sunlight. Despite the shock, the tomb guard's stance remained flawless. His hand gripped the polished rifle tightly, the other hand straight at his side. Even as small sparks of the taser's shock arced and faded, he did not stumble, did not flinch beyond a subtle, almost imperceptible jolt. His training had instilled a kind of mental armor that allowed him to remain the symbol of unwavering professionalism, no matter what threats arose. The SWAT officer, sensing tension in the crowd, seemed momentarily conflicted. His eyes scanned the plaza, hundreds of tourists staring, phones raised, witnesses frozen in shock and disbelief. It was a scene where every detail mattered. The angle of sunlight reflecting off the marble, the flutter of flags in the breeze, and the whispers of astonishment from people from Manila, New York, London, Sydney, and countless other cities across the globe. Whispers turned into quiet exclamations. "Did you see that?" someone asked. "He didn't even fall." Another added, "He's incredible. How does he stay so calm?" Social media notifications began pinging as live streams captured the standoff. The incident was spreading online even as it happened. Viewers commenting from different cities and countries. Watching from Toronto, "Canada? This is insane." "Here in Tokyo, I can't believe my eyes." Tension continued to mount. The SWAT officer took a small step back, assessing the situation. Tourists instinctively formed a semicircle, maintaining distance but keeping their cameras focused. Every person in the plaza felt the weight of authority and discipline colliding. One trained in tactical aggression, the other in ceremonial mastery. And yet, despite the immediate chaos, a sense of order began to form. The tomb guard's composed posture reminded the crowd that true power comes from control, not aggression. Murmurs rippled through the tourists. "He's not reacting out of fear. He's in complete control." Comments on live streams echoed the same sentiment. Respect for his restraint, admiration for his calm, and outrage at the unnecessary aggression of the SWAT officer. The stage was set for the next chapter. The arrival of someone far higher in authority, a figure whose presence could shift the balance and ensure justice, discipline, and respect were restored. Everyone in the plaza, from tourists to online viewers, felt it. The drama had only just begun. Engagement break. If you were witnessing this live, what would you do? Comment below your city and country, Manila, New York, London, Sydney, or elsewhere. The plaza remained tense, phones recording every moment. People held their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. One thing was already clear. The tomb guard's unwavering composure had turned a shocking act of aggression into a lesson in discipline. Resilience and professionalism captured live for the world to see. The plaza was charged with a mix of shock and curiosity. The crowd had settled into a tense stillness, phones held high, eyes fixed on the unfolding drama. The tomb guard, despite the brief jolt of the taser, continued to stand tall and poised. Every movement of his ceremonial march was measured, deliberate, and precise, a stark contrast to the SWAT officer, who now seemed both agitated and defensive. The officer adjusted his stance, tactical boots shifting on the polished marble, and attempted to justify his actions. I was following protocol," he stammered, his voice edged with uncertainty. The tourists exchanged nervous glances. Some whispered questions. Others held their phones closer, capturing the tense exchange. "Protocol? You tasered him for no reason," a bystander muttered, barely under their breath as the scene was broadcast live to viewers from Manila, New York, London, Sydney, and countless other cities. The tomb guard's calm gaze never wavered. He understood the importance of composure in the face of aggression. One misstep could escalate the situation. The SWAT officer, meanwhile, was visibly frustrated. His hands tightened around his gear as he tried to assert authority, unaware that every movement was being scrutinized by a growing audience. Families in the plaza were growing nervous. Some parents gently pulled their children back, shielding them from the tension, while others whispered to them about the importance of respect and discipline. The atmosphere was electric, a combination of fear, awe, and anticipation. Tourists began comparing notes with each other, recording commentary over the standoff. "He's incredible. Look at how calm he is. Would you stay that composed if someone tasered you?" As the SWAT officer raised his voice, attempting to demand compliance, the tomb guard maintained his posture, refusing to escalate. His calm was magnetic, drawing attention from the crowd. Whispers of admiration began to ripple through the tourists. "He's not just a guard, he's showing courage and discipline." Online viewers were commenting in real time. Watching from Toronto, "This guard is a hero." From Tokyo, "Japan, unreal composure under pressure." The officer's frustration became more visible. His voice wavered, the authoritative tone faltering as he gestured toward the guard. "Step back! Step back now!" But the tomb guard did not move beyond the ceremonial line. Each step and pause was deliberate. a demonstration that authority rooted in training and discipline cannot be shaken by fear or aggression. The crowd could sense that this moment was no longer just about a taser or a protocol breach. It was about integrity, respect, and the power of composure. Every phone recording this standoff would later become a lesson in professionalism under pressure. Visitors began narrating the scene to each other, explaining what they were witnessing. One man whispered to his friend, "This is the embodiment of discipline. He isn't reacting emotionally. He's in control." Tension escalated further as the SWAT officer's gestures became sharper, his tone louder, yet the tomb guard's measured, deliberate actions continued to dominate the scene. The stark contrast between aggression and calm created a palpable drama. The officer, despite his tactical training, seemed increasingly uncertain. He realized, perhaps too late, that discipline and composure outweighed force in the eyes of the crowd. Families and tourists alike felt inspired. "I can't believe how calm he is," a mother whispered to her child. "Even after being tasered, he doesn't flinch. That's bravery." Online, viewers continued to flood social media with comments. From Los Angeles, watching live, "This is unbelievable." Paris, France, "The guard's training is showing respect." And then in the midst of mounting tension, an unspoken anticipation filled the air. Everyone knew that someone with far higher authority would soon arrive, someone whose presence could change the dynamics of the standoff entirely. The crowd, both present in the plaza and watching online, waited breathlessly, sensing that this moment of escalating tension was about to reach a turning point. Engagement break. If you were witnessing this live, would you stand up to authority? Like the tomb guard? Comment below and tell us your city and country: Manila, New York, London, Sydney, or elsewhere. The tomb guard's resolve remained unshakable. He did not speak, did not argue, and did not react beyond maintaining his ceremonial posture. His calm demeanor was a silent message. Authority and aggression can be countered with discipline, patience, and integrity. As tourists and online viewers continued to watch, the stage was set. Within moments, the arrival of a four-star general would escalate the story, shifting the balance of authority and ensuring that professionalism, respect, and accountability would be upheld. The tension in the plaza had reached its peak, and everyone knew that the next few minutes would determine how this confrontation would be remembered, both in the Marble Plaza and across the world via live streams. The plaza remained frozen in tension, the shocked murmurs of tourists mixing with the hum of distant traffic. Phones recorded every moment, capturing the dramatic standoff between the tomb guard, unwavering despite the taser shock, and the increasingly frustrated SWAT officer. Every eye was focused on the unfolding scene, the subtle glint of sunlight on polished marble, the flutter of flags overhead, and the electric tension between authority and discipline. Then, almost imperceptibly at first, a hush began to fall over the crowd. The sound of approaching boots echoed across the plaza, deeper and more authoritative than any steps before. Tourists craned their necks. Whispers started spreading. "Who's coming? Is it more security? Look at the uniform. Medals. This has to be someone important." Within moments, a four-star general appeared at the edge of the plaza. His uniform was immaculate, adorned with shining medals and insignias that marked decades of service. The authority in his posture was immediate and undeniable. His presence alone seemed to command the plaza into a state of respectful silence. Tourists instinctively stepped back, and even the SWAT officer's bravado faltered under the gaze of such high-ranking authority. The general walked deliberately toward the standoff. Every step was precise, measured, and deliberate, a masterclass in presence. His eyes scanned the scene, noting the taser, the guard's unshaken stance, and the anxious crowd. The contrast was striking. One officer armed with force, a guard trained in discipline, and now a general exuding calm authority. The plaza felt like it had shifted, as if the arrival of one person had rebalanced the tension that had hung heavy moments before. Tourists began to whisper again, this time with awe, "That's a four-star general. He's going to take control." Phones continued to record, and live streams exploded with messages from viewers around the world. Watching from London, "This is insane." Manila here, "Can't believe the timing." New York, "The general just arrived and you can feel the energy shift." The SWAT officer's posture stiffened. His earlier confidence had evaporated, replaced by uncertainty. He knew he was accountable now, and the presence of someone far higher in authority was a reminder that professional misconduct had consequences. Tourists and bystanders watched intently as the officer hesitated, unsure whether to continue justifying his actions or stand silently. Meanwhile, the tomb guard maintained his ceremonial composure, rifle perfectly upright, movements precise. Despite the earlier shock, his professionalism never wavered. The general's approach seemed to acknowledge this, a subtle nod to the guard's discipline and restraint. The crowd sensed it too. Admiration rippled through the plaza. The general stopped a few paces from the SWAT officer and the guard, surveying the scene. The air was thick with anticipation. The crowd waited, knowing that a single word, a single gesture from this high-ranking officer could either escalate the tension or restore order completely. Children clutched their parents' hands, tourists leaned forward with wide eyes, and social media viewers across continents held their breath. Manila, New York, London, Sydney. Comments poured in as millions watched live, feeling the gravity of the moment. A slow, deliberate silence fell over the plaza. It was the calm before the storm, the moment where authority, professionalism, and respect converged. Everyone knew the next few moments would decide the outcome. The four-star general had arrived, and with him, the balance of power, discipline, and dignity was about to be restored. The plaza seemed to hold its breath as the four-star general stopped in front of the SWAT officer and the tomb guard. His polished boots clicked deliberately on the marble, commanding attention without a single word. The sun glinted off his medals, signaling decades of service and discipline, and instantly casting a shadow of authority over the situation. Every tourist, every bystander, and every live-streaming viewer felt the weight of his presence. The SWAT officer, who only moments ago had exuded confidence, now looked tense. His shoulders tightened, eyes darting between the guard and the general. It was clear he had not anticipated facing someone of this rank, someone whose experience and authority could immediately evaluate the situation and administer accountability. His earlier bravado, the taser, and his aggressive stance suddenly seemed out of place, almost foolish in contrast to the calm command radiating from the general. The general's gaze swept the plaza. Tourists instinctively leaned back, phones still recording as though afraid to break the spell of authority that had descended. His eyes, sharp and assessing, landed on the SWAT officer. "Explain your actions," he said, his voice firm but calm, echoing across the plaza. It was not a shout, yet every word demanded attention and everyone listened. The officer swallowed hard. "Sir, I was following protocol." There was a potential threat. His words faltered under the general's piercing stare. The plaza remained quiet, except for the faint click of cameras and the rustling of anxious spectators. Even the children in the crowd were silent, sensing the gravity of the moment. The general's expression remained neutral, but his posture radiated authority. "You deployed a taser on a tomb guard performing ceremonial duties with no provocation. Protocol does not justify aggression where there is none. Discipline and judgment are what separate authority from chaos. You acted recklessly." His words cut through the tension like a knife, and even the crowd seemed to absorb every syllable. The tomb guard, despite the earlier shock, continued to stand tall, unwavering. His rifle was polished, movements exact, gaze steady. The general acknowledged this with a subtle nod, a silent affirmation of the guard's professionalism under pressure. The contrast was striking. One officer reacting impulsively, another demonstrating discipline and restraint even under duress. Tourists whispered among themselves, some still recording, as live streams exploded with comments from around the globe. "Watching from Tokyo, the guard is a legend." New York here, that general just shut him down. Manila, London, Sydney, and countless other cities joined in, viewers collectively holding their breath as history unfolded before them. The SWAT officer's face turned red with embarrassment. He had expected to control the situation, perhaps even intimidate the guard, but now he faced a figure whose authority was absolute. I apologize, sir. I misjudged the situation, he stammered, voice shaky. The crowd murmured approval, recognition that accountability had arrived. The general continued, addressing both the officer and the crowd. Authority is not measured by force. True power is discipline, composure, and judgment. This guard has demonstrated all three. He remains a symbol of professionalism and honor, even when faced with unnecessary aggression. His words resonated not just with the officer, but with the watching crowd and millions online. The SWAT officer lowered his head, acknowledging his mistake. His taser still in hand, he seemed to shrink under the general's calm but commanding presence. The crowd exhaled collectively, sensing that justice and order had been restored. Visitors whispered in awe, some even applauding quietly for the tomb guard, recognizing his courage and composure. The general then turned to the guard, a subtle gesture of respect acknowledging the guard's extraordinary discipline. The guard inclined his head slightly, the tiniest motion, yet powerful enough to signal that training, restraint, and professionalism always triumph over aggression. Tourists and online viewers alike were transfixed. Comments poured in. From Los Angeles, this guard is incredible. From Paris, the general just taught a lesson in respect and authority. The incident was quickly trending worldwide, a perfect example of courage, discipline, and accountability captured live for millions. The general addressed the SWAT officer one final time. Your actions have consequences. You will be held accountable. Learn from this. Authority without discipline is meaningless. Respect must be earned, and it is shown through composure and judgment. The officer nodded, defeated yet enlightened. He lowered his equipment and stepped back, leaving the tomb guard standing tall, unwavering, the embodiment of integrity. The crowd erupted in quiet applause, not for the confrontation, but for the demonstration of true professionalism. As the general walked away, the plaza returned to a semblance of calm. Tourists resumed taking photos. Children whispered questions to their parents, and live streams continued to broadcast every detail. Yet the moment had changed everyone who witnessed it. The SWAT officer's impulsive act, the tomb guard's unwavering discipline, and the general's authority had combined to create a powerful lesson. Respect, professionalism, and integrity always triumph over aggression and recklessness. Engagement. Break. Type respect in the comments if you believe discipline and professionalism always win over force. Where are you watching from? Manila, New York, London, Sydney, or elsewhere? The plaza, once tense and chaotic, now stood as a stage for order, accountability, and honor, a vivid reminder that courage is not always loud. Sometimes it is calm, composed, and unshakable. The plaza, once a scene of confusion and tension, now held a quiet anticipation. Tourists, still recording the events, whispered among themselves, analyzing what had just transpired. The SWAT officer stood awkwardly, clearly aware that his actions had crossed a line, while the tomb guard remained unwavering, a beacon of discipline and professionalism. The arrival of the four-star general had shifted the balance instantly, but the full impact of the confrontation was only beginning to unfold. The general, having restored immediate authority, turned his attention fully to the SWAT officer. His measured steps echoed across the marble, each one reinforcing the gravity of the situation. You understand that what you did was unacceptable, correct? He asked, his voice calm but firm. The officer nodded, swallowing hard. Yes, sir, I understand. It won't happen again. But the general's piercing gaze conveyed more than correction. It conveyed accountability, a reminder that authority without judgment is meaningless. Around the plaza, the crowd began to react differently. Tourists who had been whispering in shock now murmured words of admiration for the tomb guard. Look at him. He didn't break, one whispered. He stayed calm the entire time, another said. Online viewers flooded social media with praise from Manila to New York, London to Sydney, people sharing clips and commenting, "This guard is a symbol of true discipline." Watching from Toronto, respect is everything. Meanwhile, other security personnel quietly moved to escort the SWAT officer away, ensuring no further escalation. He walked with his head bowed, a stark contrast to the composure of the tomb guard. Every step reinforced the lesson unfolding before the crowd. True power lies in restraint and professionalism, not aggression. The general turned back to the tomb guard. With a subtle nod, he acknowledged the guard's unwavering discipline. The moment was brief, almost imperceptible, but it resonated deeply. The guard's dedication to duty had been validated in front of hundreds of live witnesses, and countless more across the globe via live streams. Tourists watched in awe as the general's nod seemed to say, "Your training, patience, and professionalism are the standard we expect." The plaza's atmosphere shifted. What had been shock and disbelief transformed into admiration and inspiration. Parents held their children a little closer, explaining the importance of composure and courage. Tourists whispered to each other about the lessons in integrity they were witnessing. Online comments poured in. From Paris, this is discipline at its finest. Watching from Los Angeles, that guard is a true hero. The general addressed the SWAT officer once more, outlining the consequences: retraining, disciplinary review, and public accountability. The officer nodded, accepting the weight of his mistake. The crowd watched, learning a critical lesson in authority. Leadership is not about force. It is about judgment, respect, and responsibility. Even as the officer was escorted away, the tomb guard remained at his post, performing his ceremonial duties flawlessly. The brief shock of the taser had not shaken him. He had turned aggression into an opportunity to demonstrate integrity. Tourists, now calmer, quietly clapped, some whispering praise. "He's incredible." Not a single flinch. Online viewers responded similarly, typing respect in the comments from cities and countries worldwide. The general gave final instructions to other officers, ensuring the plaza returned to order. Visitors resumed walking the marble pathways, cameras still in hand, but a sense of reverence hung in the air. The event, captured in photos and videos, had already begun spreading online. Millions watched as a powerful story of discipline, courage, and accountability unfolded live in real time. Engagement break. Type respect in the comments if you believe discipline and professionalism always triumph over aggression. Where are you watching from? Manila, New York, London, Sydney, or elsewhere? By now, the story had taken on a life of its own. Clips were being shared across social media platforms, with commentary praising the tomb guard's composure and condemning the unnecessary aggression of the SWAT officer. Experts began analyzing the standoff, noting the critical lesson. Authority is earned through respect and discipline, not through force or intimidation. The plaza, once a stage for tension, had become a classroom for integrity. Every tourist, every child, and every online viewer had witnessed firsthand how composure, patience, and unwavering professionalism could overcome recklessness and intimidation. The incident would not be forgotten, not by those in the plaza and certainly not by millions around the globe who were now inspired by a tomb guard's quiet strength and a general's decisive leadership. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, the plaza returned to its usual rhythm, but the story lingered in every mind. The SWAT officer faced consequences. The crowd had learned a lesson, and the tomb guard remained a shining example of what true courage and professionalism look like. In the end, authority had been restored and respect had prevailed. The plaza had returned to its routine. But the story of the taser incident and the swift intervention of the four-star general had already begun to take on a life of its own. Phones continued to record, capturing the tomb guard's unwavering discipline, the officer's mistake, and the general's decisive intervention. Within minutes, clips of the confrontation were shared across social media platforms, spreading faster than anyone present could have imagined. Viewers from around the world tuned in, glued to the drama that had unfolded in real time. Comments poured in from Manila, New York, London, Sydney, Toronto, Paris, Tokyo, and countless other cities, each person marveling at the tomb guard's composure under duress. "Watching from New York, and this guard is a legend," wrote one viewer. Another commented, "Manila here, and I've never seen such professionalism. Respect." Live streams exploded with reactions, likes, and shares, turning the incident into an international sensation. News outlets picked up the story almost immediately. Headlines flashed across screens. Tomb guard tasered by SWAT officer. Courage under fire. Four-star general restores order at historic monument. Experts in law enforcement and military protocol weighed in, analyzing both the SWAT officer's error and the tomb guard's exemplary conduct. Social media accounts shared every angle. slowing footage frame by frame to show the guard's unwavering posture, even as sparks from the taser briefly flared against his uniform. The viral nature of the story made a global impact. Viewers shared their admiration for the tomb guard and expressed outrage at the officer's reckless actions. Watching from London, how can someone be so calm after being tasered? Incredible, commented one. Paris here, this shows true discipline. Respect, typed another. From Tokyo to Sydney, millions watched in awe, witnessing a real-life lesson in professionalism, courage, and integrity. The story also prompted discussion and debate. Analysts praised the general's timely intervention, emphasizing the importance of proper authority, accountability, and judgment. Social media users highlighted the moral: force alone does not command respect. Composure, training, and ethical conduct do. Memes, short clips, and detailed analyses flooded feeds, cementing the incident as a teaching moment for law enforcement and civilians alike. Meanwhile, the SWAT officer's actions faced intense scrutiny. Internal investigations were launched and public opinion strongly criticized his misuse of force. Discussions about proper protocol, ethical behavior, and the consequences of rash decisions filled forums and comment sections. The contrast between the guard's calm professionalism and the officer's impulsiveness became a key point of focus, inspiring widespread admiration for restraint and integrity. The tomb guard, for his part, remained humble despite the global attention. Interviews and news reports praised his dedication and discipline, but he emphasized that he was simply doing his duty. "I am trained to remain calm to uphold the honor of my position," he said quietly. Discipline and professionalism are not just for show. They are what protect the integrity of this monument and the people who visit it. From the plaza to online platforms, the incident had transcended its location. Millions of people across the world now understood the stakes, the bravery, and the lesson embedded in this brief but intense confrontation. The four-star general's intervention, the guard's composure, and the officer's mistake combined to create a story that was both dramatic and deeply educational, spreading values of discipline, respect, and accountability far beyond the marble walls of the tomb. Engagement break. If you believe professionalism and respect always win over aggression, type "respect" in the comments. Where are you watching this from? Manila, New York, London, Sydney, or elsewhere? By the end of the day, the story was trending globally. Clips and commentary flooded news outlets, social media feeds, and discussion forums. Millions were inspired, sharing the footage with family, friends, and colleagues, turning the plaza incident into a universal lesson in courage, restraint, and the power of integrity. The plaza itself returned to normal routines, but everyone who had witnessed the event, both in person and online, carried a lasting impression. This was no longer just a story of a SWAT officer and a tomb guard. It had become a global symbol of how professionalism, discipline, and ethical leadership can triumph in the face of aggression and uncertainty. The plaza had returned to its usual rhythm, yet the events of that day lingered in the minds of everyone who had witnessed them. Tourists slowly resumed their tours, cameras still in hand, whispering about the incredible composure of the tomb guard and the swift, decisive arrival of the four-star general. Even as life seemed to normalize, the story had already spread across the globe, becoming a symbol of discipline, courage, and integrity. The SWAT officer, once confident and aggressive, now faced the full consequences of his actions. Internal investigations confirmed the misuse of force, and he was reassigned, pending further disciplinary review. His colleagues, who had once viewed him as assertive and in control, now saw the stark contrast between rash action and measured professionalism. The officer's mistake had become a public lesson. Authority alone does not command respect. Integrity, judgment, and composure do. Meanwhile, the tomb guard continued his duties with unwavering focus. Despite the taser incident and the global attention that followed, he remained humble, performing his ceremonial responsibilities as if nothing had happened. His dedication became an inspiration, a quiet yet powerful demonstration that true courage often resides in discipline under pressure, rather than in aggression or retaliation. The four-star general, whose timely intervention had restored order, remained a figure of authority and respect. He later spoke about the incident in interviews and briefings, emphasizing the importance of leadership that balances authority with accountability. True power, he said, is measured not by force but by judgment, patience, and integrity. This guard exemplifies that principle. What we witness today is a lesson for everyone: law enforcement, military personnel, and civilians alike. Globally, the incident went viral. Millions of social media users shared clips of the confrontation, praising the tomb guard and condemning the officer's impulsive actions. Comments poured in from all corners of the world. Manila, New York, London, Sydney, Tokyo, Paris. Viewers expressed awe, admiration, and respect. Many highlighted the moral lesson. Composure and professionalism are far more powerful than rash action or intimidation. Memes, news articles, and analysis videos amplified the story, ensuring it reached audiences who had never set foot near the plaza but felt the impact of the guard's bravery and the general's authority. Parents in the plaza explained to their children the importance of discipline, respect, and courage. School groups visiting the site asked questions about training, ceremony, and protocol. Teachers, journalists, and military personnel alike used the incident as a case study in resolving conflict, maintaining composure, and understanding the responsibilities of authority. It was more than a viral moment. It had become an educational tool, a story with lessons that transcended borders. The SWAT officer, reflecting on the incident, realized the depth of the lesson he had been forced to learn. He acknowledged that leadership and authority were meaningless without accountability and restraint. Colleagues noted his transformation, recognizing that the public incident had provided an unforgettable education in humility, professionalism, and the importance of respecting others' roles, especially those grounded in discipline and tradition. Meanwhile, the tomb guard's calm professionalism became legendary. Interviews, articles, and social media posts highlighted his courage, standing firm under an unexpected attack, maintaining composure, and performing ceremonial duties flawlessly. Millions learned that true strength lies in self-control, patience, and ethical action, a universal lesson that resonated far beyond the walls of the plaza. In the weeks that followed, educational platforms, military and law enforcement forums, and leadership workshops analyzed the incident in depth. The lesson was clear. Aggression can provoke chaos, but integrity, discipline, and composure inspire respect and set an example for millions. The story transcended its location and became a symbol worldwide of how to handle unexpected challenges with professionalism and courage. Final call to action. If you believe that true courage comes from discipline and respect, type respect in the comments. Share this story with someone who needs to see how professionalism and integrity always triumph over aggression. The plaza had returned to normal. Tourists walked along the marble paths, children asked their parents questions, and ceremonial duties continued without interruption. Yet everyone present knew that the events of that day had left an indelible mark. The SWAT officer had learned accountability, the tomb guard had exemplified courage, and the general had demonstrated the power of decisive leadership. Together, they had created a story that would inspire millions across the globe, teaching that discipline, composure, and ethical action are more powerful than force alone. Even as the sun set, casting golden reflections across the marble, the story remained alive, a testament to integrity under pressure, the power of professionalism, and the global impact of one disciplined guard standing firm in the face of unexpected aggression.